Hey guys, what's up? Shadowlands back for another commentary. Today I wanted to go into the new Tau system. Now, I'm not going to be talking about it the way that UCD went into it and talking about the Tau system. I want to talk about weapons that are likely to become Tau weapons. Now, there's a lot of likely ones, there are some possible ones, there are some unlikely ones. I've split it up into three different categories to help make it seem a little bit easier to understand. So, it appears that there are 4 variants of every weapon available for every Tau series. There have to be 4 variants available based on what we've seen so far anyway. So you have a GP Standard, a GP Rare, an NX Standard, and an NX Rare. It's unlikely that they will make Epics a possible variant, although I'm not going to throw it out of the water considering that Nexon has given away Epics in the past very simply, although I doubt they're going to hand them out for permanent since they still want to make a profit. Now, a couple of factors go into these decisions before I get into the list. Nexon has to decide where they want to make most profit on ordinary NX and NX Rare weapons, and those are going to be the most desired. So if a gun is really heavily desired like the M416 family, why give everyone a SOP mod when they are likely to get one through the cases or sales and try to get one that way? This means that NX Rares are less desired than the priority ones that you put onto the Tau upgrade. So like if an NX Rare is really well desired, it's less likely to get a Tau upgrade because then people are getting it for free, and there's no longer a desire to get out of cases. However, also the rank of the GP Rare item is probably taken into account as well, because better GP weapons are one of the main reasons for wanting to be a higher rank in the game, and thus spending more time on the game. If Nexon hands out GP Rares to lower ranked players, despite how undesired they may be, for example the TAR-21 Camo, they're still going to be less motivated to get to a higher rank and spend less time in the game. So that out of the way, let's go ahead into the list. I'm going to read off the likely ones last actually, because that's the longest list. There's quite a few likely ones, and I'll explain that as we go. The unlikely ones are the G36E family. Now, the way I would see that evolving is the G36E, the KE, the Valkyrie, and then the G36C. That's unlikely because the family is horribly overpowered, and the G36E Valkyrie is one of their #1 sellers. Next up is the M4A1 and M416 families. Now, I'm seeing those ending with the SOP mod and the CQB Camo. Those are 2 of the most coveted NX Rares in the entire game, and the same with the P90 family. P90, P90 TRSE, the P90, all that stuff. Those weapons are very, very highly coveted in the game. Next up is the L96A1, the Ghillie, the Arctic Wolf, and the Super Magnum. Now, that's for a couple of reasons. The Ghillie is a very high-ranked, very well-coveted weapon, and the Arctic Wolf is one of the best sellers on the market, so chances that they're going to put that up for permanent for free is very, very low, despite the fact that, you know, it would only take 400 kills to get a free Arctic Wolf. They're not stupid enough to do that. And I would guess that it would end in either Black Magnum or the Super Magnum. I would guess the Super Magnum, since it's less, you know, hyped up about it. Chances are they would put the Super Magnum on, not the Black Magnum, if they were to do it, but I'd say that's like a 1 in 10 billion chance, so. Then also I'm saying pretty much every pistol, melee, epic weapon, mythic weapon, special event, and/or festive weapons like the Autumn Valkyrie, none of those are ever going to go on. I can't see those ever going on. So with that out of the way, I want to say now we have the Possibilities series. Now, these are possibilities because I could see them probably going on, but there's also a less likely chance they'll go on than some of the other ones I'm going to mention on later on. These are weapons that are still fairly bought, even if they're GP weapons, so if Nexon is still being able to sell these via GP, that means people are still playing the game to make the money to get these weapons. So there are incentives to play the game longer and earn GP, so chances that they'll go on are a little less. So possibilities include the AK-47 series. Now I'm going to split this up between the AK-74U and the AK-47 series. Now I'm going to explain these separately. AK-47 goes AK-47, the AK-103, AK-47 gold-plated, AK-103 gold-plated because they perform very similarly. Then separately you have the one with the 2 series with lower recoil, the AK-74U, the AK-74U gold-plated, AK-74M ending with the AK-74M gold-plated. These series have slightly less recoil than the other series, usually when you use them, and they're a little more popular, and since the AK-74M is quite popular among most users, especially old players in the game, it's less likely to go on. The AK-103 is a little less coveted than the AK-74M gold-plated, so that's my explanation for that. Next up are the 3 new SMG series that have recently gotten, when I say recently I mean the past year and a half, new NX Rares. The MAC-10, the UMP, and the Uzi, all ending with the MAC-11 SE, the UMP-45 SE, and the Micro Uzi Metal. Those are very highly coveted NX weapons, and while it wouldn't be out of the ballpark for them to put it on a Tau upgrade, chances are they still think they can make a profit off of players trying to earn those weapons, so they're probably not going to put those up. The same goes with the L115A2, ending with the L115A3 Ghillie. That is one of the most highly coveted rifles in the entire game, probably in the top 5, so chances that they'd be selling that is pretty low. Next up is one of the actual more possible of the possible list ones, so this is more likely to happen than some of the other ones. The M107 series, ending with the M107 CQ SE Ghillie. No one really goes after this weapon anymore now that the TRG SE exists. It used to be a highly coveted weapon, but not so much anymore, and they might be interested in putting in some more time onto it. However, the reason it's on the possible list is because the M107 CQ Air Force is the last rifle unlocked in the entire game, and because of that, they could see it as a way that people might try to get a free Air Force for permanent, and that could be not so good, especially when they still want to sell M107 CQ SEs, so that's that. Next up are three semi-automatic sniper series, the MSG90, PSG1, and SR25, ending with the MSG90 DMR Camo, PSG1 Mod Camo, and SR25 Mark 11 Navy. Now the reason I think these are not going on are the MSG90 DMR Camo and the SR25 Mark 11 Navy being very, very new rifles into the game, less than a year of being out, and people might still be trying to get them, or Nexon might try to make profit on them some other way besides the Tau series. And then the PSG1 Mod Camo, it's a possibility, but I think they're going to... Actually, I'll explain that a little bit later. I have a reason for that later. I'll get to it. Next up, and actually finally on the possibilities list, is the Minimi series. This is because the Minimi Para, Minimi Peri Camo, and Minimi Camo are all brand new weapons to the game, and I still think that for players that do Fire Team, Nexon thinks they can still make a profit, and once again, like the other series, the MSG90 DMR Camo and SR25 Mark 11 Navy, they can still make a profit on it. So now moving on to the likelies. These are ones that I would not be surprised if they put these up on the list for definite Tau weapons. Any one of these could appear and would not surprise me at all. First of all, the AUG A1, then to the AUG A1 Black, AUG A3, AUG A3 CAMO. Now personally, if I were you guys and if you were smart, you would stop at the AUG A1 Black because the AUG A3 CAMO is not actually that good, but it wouldn't surprise me to see it on the market. Next up is the FAMAS. FAMAS SE, FAMAS G2, and FAMAS G2 SE. Definitely going for the FAMAS G2 SE there. It's basically a downplayed version of the M416 CQB Camo, plus a silencer and a built-in reflex sight. What more could you really want? It's a great gun. Next up is a little more ambiguous. I don't really know how this would roll because there's two NX standard variants. The M14 Camo, and then you have the M14 SE and you have the Classic. Now my guess is that it would go to the M14 SE, which in my opinion is where I would stop, and then ending with the M14 Classic. I would not go for the Classic though, I'd be more inclined to stay for the M14 SE. Of the likelies, that's the one that's the least likely. Next up are a couple of series that I am very sure at some point will go on. The Scar L to the Scar L Black, the Trispear, and ending with the Scar H. That is one of the least coveted weapons in the entire game. Although it is a fantastic weapon, there are just guns that are better than it, so no one tries to go for it anymore. And the same is true of the SG550 going to the Camo, the SG556, and the SG556 Camo. Now this one is also slightly less likely because it's more ambiguous, because all of these weapons, or most of them, can receive Mark IIs, which makes it a little clever as to how are they really going to play that. Would you be able to upgrade them to Mark IIs? Would you have the ability to get 5 or 6 weapons out of this as opposed to just 4? There's a lot of ambiguities there, but it could be a possibility and it's far more likely than some others. Next up is the TAR series. Now granted, this is one that they're very, very likely to put on because it's the most downplayed series in the entire game in my opinion. It is horrible and it kind of needs a little more spotlight. I mean granted, I don't want it to have more spotlight. I hate the series. And pretty much everyone does, but, you know, it's there and they can easily do it and make a profit off of it and get people to play the game to get it. You have the TAR-21 Camo, the MTAR-21, and the MTAR-21 Camo. Next up, you have the MP5 A4, the MP5 RAS, the MP5 MOD, and the MP5 RAS Centurion. Now, these weapons are really good, and the chances that they're going to go on is a little less likely than some of the others because the MP5 RAS went on for sale, I believe for GP Permanent a few months ago. And then you also have the MP7 series, same reason. Next up is the PP19 with the Camo, the Mod, and the Mod Camo. 4 variants, all of them very well downplayed. Usually you don't see players past, low ranks using them, so there's reasoning for that. Next up, I don't really want to explain this because it's really the same as the last few. You have the Skorpion family. A while back, they put on the Skorpion Black Mod Mark II for permanent during when they were selling the Mark IIs for perm, so that's a less likely reason to go on, and people got a little taste of it already back then, and anyone who is a big fan of the weapon has access to get it permanent again through the Tau series, so that wouldn't surprise me. Now, from earlier when I was talking about the SR25 and the PSG1 series, and the weapon that I wanted to talk about later that's a subsequent of that, and the reason that the PSG1, despite having the PSG1 Mod Camo being a very old weapon in the game, the one that I want to compare it to is I think they are more likely to put on the Dragunov. You have the Dragunov SVD, the SVDS, the Dragunov Black, and the Dragunov SVDS Ghillie. It's a far more upplayed weapon in the game and typically turns out to be a little more popular, especially among lower ranks, than the PSG. The PSG1 is typically just complete trash, and the Dragunov, although still being not quite as good, is is better than the PSG, and it's more likely to get publicity and get people to play the game than the PSG 1 series. Next up is the M24. It's the first sniper you unlock in the entire game. I don't even believe there is a rank requirement. You have the M24, the M24 Woodland, the M24 A3, and the M24 A3 Woodland. This is simply because I think Nexon would think they can get players to play the game, at least to earn the weapon. I can't say it's the most useful weapon in the world, but it can be a ton of fun to use to pick heads. Next up is the MK48. Now this is one of the most underused machine guns in the entire game just because it has a very low fire rate despite having a high damage. It's really only good for fire team at the beginning of the game. However, if you get the MK48 MOD CAMO, it might actually be useful for elimination given the fact that the stats are more balanced and it has a scope. Next up is the RPK. Then you have the RPK MOD, the RPK74, and the RPK74M. Now this is basically one of the only MGs in the entire game that could actually be used very well for elimination, other types of, one-man army and player versus player games. Finally, we have shotguns. The double barrel is pretty self-explanatory. The Golden Punisher is a very well-coveted weapon, but it's also downplayed. It's kind of a strange weapon. Players that get it really like it. It's a good weapon, but people don't tend to go out of their way to try to get it. So I feel like if there was the incentive there to get one for permanent for free, people would definitely go for it. That would definitely bring in people to play the game, and it'd be a money earner for Nexon. Next up is actually one that I really hope goes on, the M590 military, going to the M590 CQB, the CQB Mariners, and yeah, that. It's a really great weapon. Overall, it performs very well, great for flanking, and I think a lot of people would be interested in getting that weapon. I think Nexon knows that as well. Similar to the Golden Punisher, it's not a weapon people go out of their way to try to get, but when they get it, it's not usually one you sell back. It's one that you use and you love until it runs out, but you don't renew it either, so I think the incentive to get one for permanent would also be quite good. Now this one is a little less likely than some of the others simply because it is so well downplayed. Absolutely no one uses this series except for the maxes. Yes, I'm talking about the R870. You have the R870, the R870 SE, R870 MCS, finishing with the R870 MCS mod. And the last two series are the Saiga 20K, crazy long names, so I'm not going to read them all out, but it ends with the Saiga 20K CQB Camo. Then again, these also have Mark II, so very similar to the SG550 series that I mentioned earlier. A lot of ambiguation here. Finally, we have the SPOS 12 ending with the SPOS 12 stock gold. Great shotgun and similar to the CQB and the Golden Punisher. There's incentive to want to get the weapon if it's there for free, but it's not one you would typically go hunting for. So I hope you guys enjoyed this crazy long list. I'm going to post it in the description below, so if you forget or you want to go look back over some of the stuff I've got, definitely feel free to do that. And I will see you guys in the next video, so don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Shadowlance out.